my greatest strength is humility,
yeah,
which is my superpower against judgment. When you don't think you're special to begin with, you're not overly worried about tricking fancy people to think you're special.
Yep.
So that helps. I had incredible parenting, predominantly my mother with a hint of my father. He's going to get upset, but it's true. My mom, you know, he was working all the time. My mom raised me. My dad taught me word is bond, created a lot of good variables for me later in my life. So great parenting, great circumstances. You two know the immigrant thing is an advantage if it's harnessed properly. It could be a disadvantage. There's a lot, you know, lately I'm starting to spend a little more time on the immigrant stuff. Like there are way too many people continuously, and we all have it when we come from that culture. And I mean, everyone who wasn't born in America that moved to America, we all want to make our parents proud more than our American counterparts. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
But when you start living for your parents' validation, that's the easiest way to not be happy.
Yeah.
And that's very hard.
We know a lot of our Indian friends who go through
it's huge. In the Asian, Indian, and certain parts of Eastern Europe, it's a big one, boy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So anyway, I think it was a matter of a lot of like, you know, nature, nurture, circumstance, and then really loving being an underdog. You know, I like being an underdog. So for me, I don't want to be accepted in the circles, you know, and you two will really understand this. I was so far ahead of everybody in those circles, I could have moonwalked into those circles. I was already in those circles when the circles were forming, and I kind of walked away from the circles, not purposely, by the way, just because I'm a busy operator.
Yeah.
You know, like, I so don't need validation of circles in the world that we're talking. For anybody who's a fan of mine, we're talking strictly that mid-2000s Silicon Valley elite.
Yeah.
I was there. I mean, I had I just had all the relationships, but I didn't need it. I didn't shun it. It's not like I'm disrespectful to it. It's just, I need to be an operator.
How does the Garyvee of 2022 differ in the kind of content and the approach he puts out versus the Garyvee of, say, 2012?
You know, it's funny. I was with another couple that I'm very fond of, Dave and Britt Morin, the other day.
Yeah. Yep.
And this got brought up right away as we were catching up. And I said something, and it really, I could see on their faces how much it clicked. Let me give you something that I know is going to do the same thing with you and maybe some of the audience. A lot less different than people would perceive, and let me explain why. I know, and this is a question that's coming up a lot. I know why it's coming up a lot because now I have a lot of receipts. And it is very clear that the early Garyvee content was around work ethic and opportunity and going hard. And I think a lot of my content the last 3 or 4 years has been very much around happiness and emotional intelligence. And so on paper, it's very easy to see, and it's very easy to make the assumption of like, I'm more mature, I'm more softened. Like, I get it. I would argue that my number one strategy, and this is gonna make a ton of sense to you two, and I'm hoping a lot of the audience, given that it's you two, my greatest operational capability of the last 15 years has been making creative content that is contextual.
Explain.
I will. One of the reasons I've been consistently strong of building an audience on every one of the social platforms that, oh, by the way, you've basically worked for all of them, right? It is not because I'm a star. It's because I'm a contextual creative.
Yep.
Meaning, I understand that when I'm making a snap spotlight, that yes, what you see is what you get, and I'm always me. But if I'm on stage in front of 15,000 people versus us three sitting in a cabin 2 hours before a cocktail party, it's me, but it's contextual me.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to be, you know, even right now I'm more animated because I can sense the hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands and through the decades, millions of eyeballs and ears for this show.
Yep.
So I'm in subconscious, conscious now, entertainment, not just information, right? Like there's a lot going through. Yep. So I've been very contextual.
Yeah.
Yes. I here's something I'm very proud of. I have been very aggressively against best practices of most of the platforms when they give advice to big brands on how to succeed on their platforms, because I'm so native to the platforms. I know what actually works versus the business advice that Meta and Snap, you guys, right?
Yeah.
So, we get it.
I'm empathetic. I don't think the platforms are trying to be mean to Fortune 500, but between the agencies and what they're trying to accomplish, they can't even get them to do the right thing. So
the goals are different. The incentive structures are different.
They also don't know the skill set you do, Gary. So you have to dumb it down for people.
My favorite line that you mentioned in one of your videos was not television, but Baskin Robbins, which I think is just a great way of framing contextualization.
Everybody wants to make the analogy there is if you make vanilla ice cream and try to push it down to everybody, TV. Well, some people like vanilla, but unfortunately, not everybody all the time, always, forever. Whereas if you go Baskin Robbins up, you can really achieve a lot more consideration, which leads to people doing what you want them to do, whether that's care about a cause or buy a pack of bubble gum. So anyway, to just finish the thought, when I started making content, I made wine content, and it was very lighthearted. When I started doing Garyvee and Crush It came out, the world was melting. Every email I got was, I'm out of a job, what do I do? So the content was, well, you're in a really tough spot. Please don't dwell. Realize this is actually the greatest era, but you're gonna have to go at it because we don't have options. If you look very carefully at the content narrative of the last 15 years that I've put out, it's a lot of macro of what's going on, and it's very heavily predicated on opportunity. For example, 5 years ago, it was so clear to me that Musical.ly was going to happen, and then TikTok M&A happened quickly, that even when people were trying to hustle shame me, and I was trying to not use the word anymore, and I started using work ethic, because the thought, and again, you've gotten to know me a little bit and you see me in different settings, the least thing I'm interested in is money. The least. So the thought of like burn out to get money has never been. But I understand as my popularity got bigger, people would use me as their opportunity for them to build off of, and that just comes with the territory. But I was very sad, especially because a lot of my coastal friends sometimes believed it, even though they knew it wasn't true. And that really hurt me as a person. But I understood why. I was compassionate to it. I live my truth. I have empathy and compassion and understanding. But I'm excited. I like where I'm living now. I always like that the truth will always win in the end, and I just keep doing what I do. But I would say the content has always been one of two things. Very consistent, both contextually in the macro, what's going on in the world. So basically TikTok was going on, even though people were trying to get me a little bit on that narrative, I still told everybody to go hard on TikTok because I knew it was a land grab. And I gotta tell you, maybe I can take maybe it's not fun to take judgment of people you respect. And that happens to me a lot, because I'm a little wild and a little more silly. I get underestimated from the quality of my thinking. And sometimes that leads to people that don't know me as well to write me off. And I'm a human. And like, if I admire someone and they think I'm a joker, that's not fun. However, last point and then jump in. However, when I get 700 emails a month from people who said, you changed my life because I went into TikTok and this happened, that always makes up for the cliche VC that I admire who thinks I'm a snake oil salesman. It always does. And that's why I've stayed consistent for 15 years.